Chapter 3 Election and Representation NCERT Polity Textbook 11th Standard. Today I am going to discuss about election and representation. In this chapter we shall study the constitutional provisions regarding elections and representation. We shall focus on the importance of the method of election chosen in our constitution and the implications of the constitutional provisions regarding impartial machinery for conducting elections. We shall also look at some suggestions for amending the constitutional provision in this respect. After reading this chapter, you would understand different methods of election, the characteristics of the system of election adopted in our country, the importance of the provisions for free and fair elections, and the debate on electoral reforms. Coming to the chapter, first side heading elections and democracy. Let's begin by asking ourselves two simple questions about elections and democracy. Can we have democracy without holding elections? Think about it. Can we have democracy without holding elections? Absolutely no. We can't have a democracy without holding elections. That means if you take some country without holding elections like a monarchy like that, see, we don't have democracy. In olden days also, king will be there. King will rule the country and king's son will continue the ruling of that country or state. So, without holding elections, we can't have a democracy. Next one, can we hold elections without having democracy? Yes, we can. Means there are some countries which are holding elections without having democracy. For example, Pakistan. Then, what is a direct democracy? A direct democracy is one where the citizens directly participate in the day-to-day decision making and in the running of the government. The ancient city-states in Greece were considered examples of direct democracy. Many would consider local governments, especially Gram Sabhas, to be the closest examples of direct democracy. But this is kind of direct democracy cannot be practiced when a decision has to be taken by lakhs and crores of people. That is why rule by the people usually means rule by people's representatives. The method followed to choose these representatives is referred as election. Citizens are involved only indirectly through their elected representatives for any policy in running administration. The constitution of a democratic country lays down some basic rules about elections. The details are usually left to be worked out by laws passed by the legislatures. These basic rules are usually about who is eligible to vote, who is eligible to contest, who is supervise the elections, how do the voters choose their representatives, how are the votes to be counted and representatives elected. You can think about these questions also. Who is eligible to vote? The people who are above 18 years age can eligible to vote. Who is eligible to contest? The person who are above age of 18 years, their name should be in electoral uh, list, and for different posts there is a age limit. For suppose for Gram Panchayat Sarpanch 25 years of age, Lok Sabha MP 25 years of age, for Rajya Sabha it's around 30 years I think so, for President another age limit like that. Who is to supervise elections? The administration. How do the voters choose their representatives? That depends upon the persons. How actively they are involving in day-to-day politics like that. How are the votes to be counted and representatives elected? I think in real life you have seen so many times about the counting in newspapers or in TVs like that. Then election system in India. In a democratic election, people vote and their preference decides who will win the contest. I am just explaining brief thing about each and every chapter. If you have any doubts, give a comment. You can see here. These are all not that much important for UPSC or state PSCs, but as you can read line by line. See, Lok Sabha elections of 1984. The Congress party came to power winning 4-1 of the 543 Lok Sabha seats, more than 80% of the seats. Such a victory was never achieved by any party in Lok Sabha. What did this election show? The Congress party won 4/5 of the seats. Does it mean that 4 out of 5 Indian voters voted for the Congress party? No. Why means in our country there is a system of first past the post. That means in the election result, whoever got majority votes, the person will be the winner. Can see the performance of major parties in Lok Sabha elections 1984. See, you can see the percentage of votes polled. For Congress party, only 48% of the votes polled, but they got 415 seats out of 543. Why means most of the people got majority votes. Then this happened because in our country we follow a special method of election, that is first past the post. Under this system, the entire country is divided into 543 constituencies. Each constituency elects one representative, and the candidate who secures the highest number of votes in that constituency is declared elected. It is important to note that in this system, whoever has more votes than all other candidates is declared elected. The winning candidate need not secure a majority of the votes. This method is called first past the post system. The electoral race, the candidate who is ahead of others, who crosses the winning post first of all is the winner. This method is also called the plurality system. This is the method of election prescribed by the constitution. And another method is there, proportional representation. For example, in Israel, once the votes are counted, each party is allotted to the share of seats in the parliament in proportion to its share of votes. Each party fills its quota of seats by picking those many of its nominees from a preference list that has been declared before the elections. This system of election is called proportional representation system. In this system, a party gets the same proportion of seats as its proportion of votes. In the proportional representation system, there could be two variations. In some countries like Israel or Netherlands, the entire country is treated as one constituency and seats are allocated to each party according to its share of votes in the national election. The other method is when the country is divided into several multi-member constituencies as in Argentina and Portugal. Each party prepares a list of candidates for each constituency depending on how many have to be elected from the constituency. In both these variations, voters exercise their preference for a party and not a candidate. The seats in a constituency are distributed on the basis of votes polled by the party. Thus, representatives from a constituency would and do belong to different parties. In India, we have adopted proportional representation system for on a limited scale for indirect elections. The Constitution prescribes a third and complex variation of the proportional representation system for the election of president, vice president, and for the election of Rajya Sabha and Vidhan Parishads. And you can see here proportional representation of Israel. They explained about the system. You can read it. Comparison of first past the post system and proportional representation system of election. FPTP. The country is divided into small geographical units called constituencies or districts. Proportional representation system. Large geographical areas are demarcated as constituencies. The entire country may be a single constituency. FPTP. Every constituency elects one representative. PR. More than one representative may be elected from one constituency. Voter votes for the party. FPTP. Voter votes for a candidate. In PR. Voter votes for the party. FPTP. A party may get more seats than votes in the legislature. Then, in proportional representation, every party gets seats in the legislature in proportion to the percentage of votes that it gets. You can see more seats than votes in the legislature. For example, in above, I explained about the Congress party in 1984 elections. They got 48% of the votes only, but they got the 415 seats out of 543. Then FPTP candidate who wins the election may not get majority 50% plus 1 votes. Yes, if they got more votes means he will be the winner. That means it may be less than 50% also. In PR system, candidate who wins the election gets majority of votes. Then for example FPTP UK and India. Example of PR system Israel and Netherlands, Argentina, Portugal, etc. How does proportional representation work in Rajya Sabha election? Can see the third variant of PR system is the single transferable vote system is followed for Rajya Sabha elections. Every state has a specific quota of seats in the Rajya Sabha. The members are elected by the respective state legislative assemblies. The voters are the MLAs in the state. Every voter is required to rank candidates according to her or his preference. You can see if suppose some three members are contesting from three parties. Suppose you can take examples of YSRCP, TDP, TRS. In that, the candidate who are uh, taking their vote, that is single transferable vote, they have to give the rank for the members who are contesting. Suppose if one person want to give first to TDP, second to YCP, third to TRS, they'll give ranks. First rank to TDP, second rank to YCP, and third rank to TRS, like that. To be declared the So every voter is required to rank candidates according to her or his preference. To be declared the winner, a candidate must secure a minimum quota of votes, which is determined by a formula. You can see it. Total votes polled. Suppose if you take from one constituency, there are suppose 25 MLAs are there. They are going to elect for each 25 MLAs means they can, for example, I am taking total votes polled by total number of candidates to be elected plus 1, the whole plus 1. That is means the total votes polled means if suppose 200 votes are polled by total number of candidates to be, and one how many members we have to elect plus 1, the whole plus 1. You can see here, for example, if 4 Rajya Sabha members have to be elected by 200 MLAs in Rajasthan, the winner would require 200 by 4 plus 1 equal to 40 plus 1. That are 41 votes. When the votes are counted, it is done on the basis of first preference votes secured by each candidate, of which the candidate has secured the first preference votes. If after the counting of all first preference votes, required number of candidates fail to fulfill the quota, the candidate who secured the lowest votes of first preference is eliminated, and his or her votes are transferred to those who are mentioned as second preference on those ballot papers. This process continues till the required number of candidates are declared elected. Suppose you can see here, we have to take 4 Rajya Sabha members from 200 MLAs. Here, one person got only 40 votes and he needs to get another vote. But while taking 4 members in preference, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4 preference will be there in each vote. If the person who are getting less score, that means suppose a person got only fourth preference in every vote, around 30 votes, means he will be eliminated in the first round. In the second round, remaining 3 MLAs will be there. In the 3 MLAs, they'll take the votes preferences. If suppose a person got 40 votes as first preference and needs to get another vote, right? Then they'll check the second preference of remaining votes. If the person got second preference in other by eliminating the remaining members, he will be elected as MP. Why did India adopt the FPTP system? Means it's a large democracy. The entire election system is extremely simple to understand even for common votes who may have no specialized knowledge about elections. See, if it is proportional representation system is we can't common person cannot understand what is this. See, suppose for Rajya Sabha elections I explained something above that is little bit typical to understand the normal common people. If suppose first past the post system, even a normal person without having any knowledge or illiterate person can understand. Why means the person who got majority of the votes, he'll be the winner. That's everyone can understand. You can see I just want to explain this cotton also. See, the ruling party are trying to listen to the tiny opposition. If the opposition party is tiny means ruling party won't listen to them. Then you will notice that the peer system may not produce a clear majority because seats in the legislature would be divided on the basis of share of votes. In FPTP system, generally gives the largest party or coalition some extra bonus seats more than their share of votes would allow. Finally, the FPTP system encourages voters from different social groups to come together to win an election in a locality. In a diverse country like India, a PR system would encourage each community to form its own nationwide party. This may also have been at the back of the mind of our constitution makers. The FPTP system has proved to be simple and familiar to ordinary voters. It has helped larger parties to win clear majorities at the center and the state level. The system has also discouraged political parties that get all their votes only from one caste or community. Then after 1989, India is witnessing the function of multi-party coalitions. Reservation of constituencies. Can see candidate who secures the highest vote in a particular constituency is declared elected. The constitution makers aware of this difficulty were and the need to provide a way to ensure fair and just representation to the oppressed social groups. This system means that for electing a representative from a particular community, only those voters would be eligible who belong to that community. The Constituent Assembly, many members expressed a fear that this will not suit our purposes. Therefore, it was decided to adopt the system of reserved constituencies. In this system, all voters in a constituency are eligible to vote, but the candidate must belong to only a particular community or social section for which the seat is reserved. You can see here the constituency provide for a reservation of seats in the Lok Sabha and state legislative assemblies for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. This provision was made initially for a period of 10 years and as a result of successive constitutional amendments has been extended up to 2020. The Parliament can take decision to further extend it when the period of reservation expires. And recently, Parliament amended wait a minute. Recently, Constitution was Amendment Act was passed. That is 104th Constitution Amendment, which further extended up to another 10 years. And that constitutional amendment does away the reservation for Anglo-Indian community. The number of seats reserved for both of these groups is in proportion to their share in the population of India. Of the 543 elected seats in the Lok Sabha, 84 are reserved for scheduled castes, and 47 are reserved for scheduled tribes. You can see during elections, you can see some ST candidate allotted for this constituency, some SC candidate allotted for this constituency, like that. The voters can vote to the candidates also, but the seat was reserved for the SC or ST candidate. Who decides which constituency is to be reserved? On what basis is the decision taken? Who decides? The Delimitation Commission will decide. This decision taken by an independent body called Delimitation Commission. The Delimitation Commission is appointed by the President of India and works in collaboration with the Election Commission of India. Those constituencies that have the highest proportion of scheduled tribe population are reserved for ST. And in case of scheduled caste, the Delimitation Commission looks at the two things. It picks constituencies that have higher proportion of scheduled caste population, but it also spreads these constituencies in different regions of state. This is done because scheduled caste population is generally spread evenly throughout the country. These reserved constituencies can be rotated each time the delimitation exercise is undertaken. Reservation of seats for women has been provided for in rural and urban local bodies. For so many times, there is a discussion about amendment to the constitution for reservation women in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha also, but it is only for present, it is only in rural and urban local bodies. Free and fair elections. Free and fair elections means without taking money, you can vote without rigging. If the administration was good, the police system and the security, if it is good, means the election should be will be free and fair election. And universal franchise and right to contest. Apart from laying down a method of election, the constitution answers two basic questions about elections. Who are the voters? Who can contest elections? In previous page, I think I explained about this. And you can see here the democratic elections require that all adult citizens of the country must be eligible to vote in the elections. This is known as universal adult franchise. That is, a person who are above 18 years, they can vote. One of the important decisions of framers of Indian Constitution was to guarantee every adult citizen in India the right to vote. Till 1989, an adult Indian meant an Indian citizen above the age of 21. An amendment to the Constitution in 1989 reduced the eligibility age to 18 years, that is 61st Constitutional Amendment 1980, Amendment Act 1988, that increased the age, that decreased the age of voter from 21 to 18 years. 61st Constitutional Amendment. All citizens have the right to stand for election and become the representative of the people. However, there are different minimum age requirements for contesting elections. For example, in order to stand for Lok Sabha or Assembly election, a candidate must be at least 25 years of old. Remember this. For instance, there is a legal provision that a person who has undergone imprisonment for 2 or more years for some offence is disqualified from contesting elections. But there are no restrictions of income, education, or class or gender on the right to contest elections. In this sense, our system of election is open to all citizens. Can remember this line. There is a legal provision that a person who has undergone imprisonment for 2 or more years for some offence is disqualified from contesting elections. Independent Election Commission. Several efforts have been made in India to ensure the free and fair election system and process. The most important among these is the creation of an independent election commission to supervise and conduct elections. You can see Article 324 explains about election commission. The superintendent's direction and control of the preparation of the electoral rolls for the conduct of all elections to the parliament and to the legislature of every state and of elections to the offices of president, vice president held under this constitution shall be vested in a commission referred in this constitution as election commission. You can see uh, parliament elections and state legislative elections and president and vice president elections are held under election commission. Article 324 of Indian Constitution provides for an independent election commission for the superintendence, direction and control of the electoral roll and the conduct of elections in India. The election commission is not responsible for the conduct of local body elections. For that, there will be a state election commission who work independently of election commission of India, and each has its own sphere of operation. You can see in recent time there is a lot news about state election commissioner, that is a Andhra Pradesh state election commissioner Ramesh Kumar. That means there is a clash between state government and election commissioner, and election commission uh, stopped elections during pandemic time. Means the state election commissioner needs to uh, talk with state government and chief secretary. After that only he can release the notification of elections. But what happened without consulting the chief minister or chief secretary? Suddenly, chief election commissioner released election notification. But what state government told, there is a vaccination drive going on in the country and in the state. We are unable to process elections. But the state election commissioner told that we have to conduct elections for local bodies, and state employees associations there are all are protesting against that. Means COVID-19 pandemic is going on, how can we suffer in election duties like that? The employees are struggling. You can see the election commission of India can either be a single member or a multi-member body. Till 1989 the election commission was single member. Just before 1989 general elections, two election commissions were appointed, making the body multi-member. Again, there will be a single member body in 1993. Again, it became multi-member body. The chief election commissioner and two election commissioners have equal powers to take all decisions related to elections as a collective body. Then appointed by President of India on the advice of Council of Ministers. The appointment of CEC and election commissioners. There is a proposal, means the election commissioners were appointed by President of India. It is therefore possible for a ruling party to appoint a partition person to the commission who might favor them in the elections. This fear had led many to suggest that this procedure should be changed. Many persons have suggested that a different method should be followed that makes consultation with the leader of opposition and Chief Justice of India necessary for the appointment of CEC and election commissioners. The Constitution ensures that the security of the tenure of the CEC and election commissioners. They are appointed for a 6-year term or continue till the age of 65 years. That means if election commissioner was appointed at the age of 62 years for 6 years term, but after 3 years he will become 65 age, right? Then he will retire. So whatever be the first, either 6-year term or the age of 65. CEC can be removed before the expiry of the term by the president if both houses of parliament make such a recommendation with a special majority. Election Commission of India has wide range of functions. I will explain further. First, we have to know what is special majority, what is simple majority. Special majority means two-thirds majority of those present and voting. That means if in 543 members of the Lok Sabha, if suppose only 250 members are present at the time of voting, and in that two-thirds of the majority, that means more than 50%. Then what is simple majority? Simple majority is the total membership of the house. Suppose 543 members are there, more than half, that is more than 50%. This simple majority. Then you can see the Election Commission of India's function, that is supervise the preparation of up-to-date voters list. It makes every effort to ensure the voters list is free of errors like non-existence of names of registered voters or existence of names of those non-eligible or non-existent. It also determines the timing of elections and prepares election schedule, etc. During entire process, Election Commission has the power to take decisions to ensure a free and fair poll. It can postpone or cancel the election in the entire country or a specific state or constituency on the grounds that the atmosphere is vitiated and therefore a free and fair election may not be possible. The Commission also implements a model code of conduct for parties and candidates. It can order a re-poll in a specific constituency. It can also order a recount of votes when it feels that the counting process has not been fully fair and just. The Election Commission accords recognition to the political parties and allows symbols to each of them. The Election Commission has very limited staff of its own. It conducts the elections with the help of the administrative machinery. That is the administrative machinery means so those employees, government employees. The EC can transfer the officers or stop their transfers. It can take action against them for failing to act in a non-partisan manner. In recent news, there is a news some officials of Andhra Pradesh government were going to transfer. The EC stopped their transfer. You can link this line with the real life example. Over the years, the Election Commission of India has emerged as an independent authority which has asserted its powers to ensure fairness in the election process. It has acted in an impartial and unbiased manner in order to protect the sanctity of the electoral process. The record of Election Commission also shows that every improvement in the functioning of institutions does not require legal or constitutional change. It is widely agreed that Election Commission is more independent and assertive now than it was till 20 years ago. The Election Commission has started using more effectively the powers it always had in the Constitution. The past 55 years, it's old one, actually past 67 years, there are 17 Lok Sabha elections were conducted by Election Commission. Lok Sabha elections and state assembly, many more state assembly elections, by elections have been conducted by Election Commission of India. Then you can see further electoral reforms. That is the same process we are following from 1951-52 elections. We are following the same process for elections. There are some provisions, constitution changing of constitution provisions discussed. Our system of elections should be changed from FPTP to some variant of PR system, not the exact of PR system. This would ensure the parties get seats as far as possible in proportion to their votes they get. There should be a special provision to ensure that at least one-third women are elected in parliament and assemblies. See, now there is only reservation in urban and rural local body elections. In electoral reforms, we are proposing for parliament and assemblies also for women reservation. And the election expenses should be paid by the government out of special fund. Candidates with any criminal case should be barred from contesting elections, even if the appeal is pending before a court. There should be complete ban on use of caste and religious appeals in campaign. There, there should be a transparent and democratic manner political parties functioning. There are but a few suggestions. There is no consensus about these suggestions. You can see apart from legal reforms, there are two other ways of ensuring that elections reflect the expectations and democratic aspirations of the people. One is, of course, that people themselves have to be more vigilant, more actively involved in political activities. but there are limits to the extent to which ordinary people can engage in politics on a regular basis. Therefore, it is necessary that various political institutions and voluntary organizations are developed and are active in functioning as watchdog for ensuring free and fair elections. You can link this with the real life example. During elections, so many people are taking money from the contesting candidates, and after elections, that MLA or MP, they are taking money from the people. Means they spend a lot during elections and they are taking back the money from the people itself. Most of the people don't know about this. Means what they'll complain about, they are taking bribes like that. Normal people complaining, but we have to stop taking money during the elections, money or anything during elections. Then only be there will be a free and fair elections. We can come to conclusion. In countries where representative democracy is practiced, elections and representative, you can read this. Mainly they gave briefly the conclusion. It's all about the third chapter. You can take the exercises. Thank you.